there is only one God, and his name is death.
And there is only one thing we say to death. Not today.
Sansa attends King Joffrey's first court session. As a reward for being good and promising not to leave the Red Keep, Sansa has been granted freedom of the castle by Queen Cersei. However, even Sansa realises that it is an empty honour since she cannot get past the guards in any case, and has nowhere to go even if she did. In addition, the Queen has attached an honour guard to accompany Sansa everywhere. The throne room has been stripped of all the hunting tapestries that King Robert loved so well. Sansa also notes that there are no small folk, and only perhaps 20 of the 100 lords accustomed to wait on King Robert. Sansa wonders where the others have all gone. As she passes among them, many of them pretend not to know her, and none will meet her eyes. Joffrey and Cersei are announced by a herald and enter, escorted by members of the King's Guard. Once he is seated on the Iron Throne, Joffrey declares that it is a king's duty to punish the disloyal and reward the faithful, and asks Grand Maester Pycelle to read his royal decrees. The list of those that must present themselves to swear fealty goes on for a long time. Finally, near the end, the name of Sansa's own family are called, even down to Arya and Rickon. The naming of Arya suggests to Sansa that her sister must have escaped and be safe in Winterfell. It is then announced that the king's grandfather, Lord Tywin Lannister, is to take up the office of Hand of the King in place of the traitor Eddard Stark. It is also decreed that Cersei Lannister, as Queen Regent, be seated on the small council in place of Stannis Baratheon, and that Janos Slynt, commander of the City Watch of King's Landing, be raised to the rank of Lord, and granted the ancient seat of Harrenhal as well as a seat on the small council. Janos Slynt then enters the hall, displaying his new lordly sigil, to take his seat at the council table. The elevation of Slynt, a butcher's son, to the lordship of Harrenhal visibly angers many of the knights and lords present. Finally, Pycelle reads a decree that in these times of turmoil, the council considers the safety of King Joffrey to be of paramount importance. Queen Cersei stands and calls forth Sir Barristan Selmy. She proceeds to thank the old knight for his many years of service in the King's Guard, but declares that the time has come for him to set aside his burden. Sir Barristan is confused until the new-made Lord Slynt explains bluntly that he is being relieved as Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Sir Barristan is plainly stunned and protests that only death may relieve a King's Guard of his sacred trust. Cersei asks whose death, his or his king's. Joffrey goes even further, accusing Sir Barristan of letting his father die and declaring him too old to protect anyone. Sir Barristan reminds them that he was long ago forsaken his ancestral lands and keep and a wife-to-be in order to serve the King's Guard. He goes on to recount his history as a member of the King's Guard, protecting and serving 3 kings. Littlefinger notes that all 3 of these kings are dead. Then Cersei reiterates that Sir Barristan's time is done because Joffrey needs young and strong men around him, and that Sir Jaime Lannister will succeed him as Lord Commander. Sir Barristan is outraged that a man who killed the king he swore to protect should be made the Lord Commander. Varys attempts to calm the situation, insisting that they are not ungrateful to Sir Barristan and that Lord Tywin has agreed to grant Sir Barristan a tract of land in the Westerlands with men and gold sufficient to build a stout keep and servants to see to his every need. Sir Barristan venomously describes such a gift as a hall to die in and men to bury him. He removes his white cloak and armour and drops them on the floor, declaring that he will die a knight. Littlefinger quips, "A naked knight, it would seem," which raises laughs from the entire hall, even the remaining members of the King's Guard. The laughter ends abruptly when Sir Barristan draws his sword, but the old knight insists they should have no fear, even though he could still cut down the remaining 5 King's Guard with ease. He adds in disgust that any man who would serve under the Kingslayer does not deserve the white cloak. Then he throws his sword at the foot of the Iron Throne, declaring to Joffrey, "Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others." Before he leaves, the old knight suggests that perhaps Stannis will depose Joffrey and sit upon the throne. The knight's footsteps echo through the hall as he takes the long way out. Joffrey is incensed at Sir Barristan's talk of Stannis and at being called a boy. He orders Sir Barristan seized and questioned. Finally, Janos Slynt announces that his gold cloaks will see to it. It is then announced that Sandor Clegane will fill the vacancy created by the departure of Sir Barristan. Joffrey asks the Hound what he thinks, and Clegane declares that he has no lands or wife to forsake, but he will not take a knight's vows. Sir Boros Blunt of the King's Guard protests that the member of the King's Guard have always been anointed knights, but is quickly rebuffed. The time has finally come for Sansa, when she hears the herald ask for any further business. She nervously comes forward, thinking that she must be as strong as her lady mother. She calls out, and Joffrey, seeing her, tells her to come forward, which emboldens her. She begs for mercy for her father. Queen Cersei expresses displeasure, but Varys only claims that she is a child who does not understand what she says. Joffrey tells the others to let her speak. The small council questions her about her father's treason, and Sansa knows better than to deny it. Instead, she tells them that the others must have lied to her father, and that he only claimed Joffrey was not the king because of the pain from his broken leg and the effects of the milk of the poppy. Joffrey calls for his mother, who states that if Lord Eddard confesses his crime, then they will know he has repented. Sansa prays that her Joffrey be as kind and noble as she believes he is. Joffrey agrees that if Eddard admits his guilt and swears fealty, he will be granted mercy. Sansa assures them that he will.
I demand a trial by combat.